and welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Davis, and my co-host, Chris Branch, the daily 10-minute podcast where we talk about generative AI, but we take out all of the techie talk and we make it relevant for the everyday marketer, content creator, and everyday person. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we can only focus on one particular subject. And this week, what we've been doing all week is talking about our predictions for 2024 in the world of generative AI. So we've already spoke about generative AI in video and how we feel that video is going to be a big year this year when it comes to generative AI in video. But today we're going to be talking about another prediction that we feel is going to have a huge impact, and that is to do with AI influencers. Mm-hmm. This is a subject that we spoke about a few times on the podcast and how we're seeing the increase in AI influencers back in 2023. But I think 2024, you're going to really see a huge impact on the whole industry, as well as marketing and content creation, and also how it's going to affect the everyday person. So, Chris, what do you think is going to happen this year when it comes to AI influencers?
Like you said, I think it's going to explode because whenever you see market plays like we're currently seeing, where there's lots of money to be made and more people are able to do it, you're going to see an increase in demand. You know, it's just a simple, like, if you look at lots of the YouTube videos at the moment about how to make side hustles with AI, a lot of them are to create a digital influencer. And start either a media agency or some sort of networking partnership, specifically on Instagram and places like this. So I can only imagine, with it being so much more possible to so many people, that we will see a huge increase in this, to the point where it might become diluted and then not that profitable, and then it dies off very quickly. It really is hard to know exactly what will happen in that space.
And what you just said then is a really, really important factor, because I actually think that 2024 is going to be a big year in this space, but 2025 is going to see the backlash. So I think you're going to see a lot of, as I just mentioned, agencies creating AI influencers because they've seen what's possible, and they've seen AI influencers making 5-6 figures a month.
Yeah.
So because of that, what I think we're going to see is a lot of people enter that space. But I think next year, because of numerous factors, but trust is going to be a big thing, I think the novelty is going to wear off. But let's just focus on this year. The key thing when it comes to influencers is that consistency. And as we've been speaking about sometimes on the podcast, but a lot off the podcast, is the consistency in different platforms. So have you found that, so for example, in Midjourney 6, that the consistency, so if you don't know what I mean by consistency, it's creating a character and doing that character multiple things in multiple images and videos. Have you found that? What's that like now, do you feel?
It's better, but still not like... and that's one of the interesting points you've raised, actually, because Midjourney has so many millions of users. If that was possible through Midjourney, that would even more explode the AI influencer scene. Actually, right now, it still does take specialists like Stable Diffusion models that are highly tuned, and you need to load in your own models, and, you know, then you can get consistency / continuity, whatever. You know, it's the same thing, really. It's like having a character repeat over and over again and look like the same person. Like, it can't be that you have slightly different versions of a redhead girl and then that has an Instagram influencer profile. That's not really how humans would do it. So, like, that is when that code is cracked, though.
I think it will be this year.
It will be this year. I think you're right. I think it's hard to think it won't be this year based on the speed at which other things have happened. And that is such an in-demand thing, is this ability to create continuity. So hard to see that not happening. One of the things I think is really interesting, though, when it comes to influencers is, like you said, the dilution of all this could just become major. Right now, it's taking an agency to do it, but when individuals get the capability of doing this, and it, you know, maybe become very fast, very boring to people, and whether or not Instagram nerfs that is another thing. You know, whether they say, we are only going to allow so many digital influencers and their profiles will be marked as such.
I think they'll have to have something like that will really kind of showcase to people this is an AI profile
Yeah.
And then the fact that they were using it to become an influencer, so working with brands
Yeah.
as well, that's another thing. Because the whole regulations around
Yep.
what is an influencer, what is an ad, hashtag ad, and all of
And
that,
what's manipulated,
and what's
like
manipulated. Yeah,
Instagram had that massive thing where they had to say this is a photoshopped image and it's
yeah,
not really, for teenage girls specifically, a representation of what's a possible body, type
yeah.
or something like that. Now, on the other side of the coin, though, I will argue a digital influencer will be a lot less fussy than a real
Yeah,
influencer in
that's
terms of getting stuff done. And so,
yeah.
and
That's
also,
why brands
you
are
don't mind
excited.
generating that stuff. You don't feel like it's you in any way.
Brands, that's what brands. Because when I've worked with brands and when done a lot of stuff in influencers throughout the years,
Yeah,
the biggest problem, well, one of the biggest problems brands have is A, finding the right influencer, and
yeah,
B, their relationship with the influencer and getting them to
yeah.
do what they want, but also kind of works with the influencer.
And
And the
often
fact
is
that
the case is the bigger they are, the harder they are to work with
to
because
work
they're
with, yeah.
so fussy in what they want and their demands are so high and all these other expectations.
But also, and this, so that's one thing that's going to be easier for you're going to work with AI
Mhm.
influencers. But actually, the bigger you are, the biggest challenge sometimes not the influencer, it's the people around the influencer. It's the
Mm,
agent, it's
the
the
team.
manager, it's
Yeah.
the like friends or people in their ear.
Mm,
So if you're going to have AI influencers, that means you're constantly going to be dealing with the creator, the person who might do the
yeah.
marketing for that, and what their role is. Because ultimately, the reason why influencers become big is
Mm,
down to trust.
yeah.
Now, if you've got an AI influencer, you know that somebody is programming that person, the AI influencer, to do something for the brand.
Hmm.
Where if it's an individual, yes, they were doing it for the brand, but I don't know. Maybe it's something that I just think that I would just trust the person more than somebody that's programming something
Yeah.
for that brand, because trust is going to be a big part, and that's why I
Hmm.
feel that this year it will be really, really big. But I think next year, because of trust, I can see it changing again,
Hmm.
but not necessarily in a positive, or not a positive, in a growth direction that I think it will be this year.
Yeah, I could see that too, mate. Honestly, it's such a weird one to predict this because it could go so many ways. Like
Yeah.
it could make you could get like sophisticated agency influencers that are strategic. They're
Mm.
made with certain characteristics to perfectly match two brands. So they're
Yeah.
thinking before even because you can't match your personality perfectly to Nike or Apple or something. You don't work like that.
Mm.
Your characteristics as a human being are constantly shifting and
Yeah.
but you can program an AI influencer to have those exact characteristics. So it is a weird one in that, like,
Then
you
that
know,
changes advertising. And
it
what I
does
mean by
change
that is,
advertising.
if you've got influencers here and advertising here,
Yeah,
if,
yeah, yeah,
if it's programmed, that means where influencers will have their form of opinion, this will kind of go towards advertising. And I
yeah,
think AI influencers will more affect the advertising world
yeah.
rather than the influencer world, if that makes sense. Because
Well,
the
it's
other thing
funny.
as
You
well,
know so much about this, right? And the middle management because you train these talent and the teams and the
yeah,
agents and the stuff behind it, right?
yeah, I
So
can yeah,
what I thought instantly was, imagine a scenario where basically you could do user generated content through AI influencers. You could literally on steroids make the perfect following of this audience and it be like a perfect brief in a way. But
mm.
again, it could have the downsides of it looking fake and it too matches up. It's not authentic and human like. It's too perfect of a collaboration.
But and you know what? We've only got a minute left of this podcast, but there's so many things that we could go into. So we'll definitely go into
It's a tough one.
another episode on this. But also, if it's an influencer and it's AI generated, anyone can create it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. Anyone can go
And
back to
you,
user generated content. I can create that influencer doing stuff that the person who really created it wouldn't want them to do.
yes, I agree.
Yeah, obviously copyright and trademark and stuff. But then, if that's the case, so if you go to like DALI 3, you can't just create an image of Donald Trump or The Rock or Beyonce. Like, you can't just do that because it will say no because of copyright.
Mhm.
But what would that be for an influencer? Unless the influencer agency has said no, we've made this person you can't
Mhm.
create. So it's going to be a very interesting world. And in a nutshell, we believe that 2024 we're going to see a huge increase in influencer marketing, but really a lot of it is going to be AI generated.
Yep. I totally agree. And whether or not it dies in the same year, let's see. Because it could be a massive rise and a massive fall, but to be confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely we'll talk about this one again.